A few people have told me to look into the TaskNotes plugin recently, and to be honest, I just ignored them. I'm like, I don't need that. I don't need another TaskNotes plugin. The Obsidian Tasks plugin works. I have it inside of Morgen with my calendar and all of the events, so it works fine. But having explored it and the bases, it's very nice. It's does a lot of things, and I kind of just want to show you what it does. As the name of the plugin implies, it turns the notes into tasks, and there are tons, and when I say tons, I mean like tons of features. If we come out and we go into the settings, you can see task notes. We've got loads of settings at the top here, which I will be going through. But if we come out, what the biggest feature for me that has grabbed my attention is if I go to my bases view. So this is just the Obsidian core bases. You can see I've got tons of views in here, but these little icons are different because it's the plugin. So the TaskNotes plugin, community plugin, is working with the core bases plugin. So I'm currently in the project view. If I come down into layout, we've got table, cards, then task list, which is a list view of all of the tasks, which I'll go through later, and then Kanban. So we have a Kanban board view inside of the Obsidian Bases. Something I do want to note though is if I come to the project view, you can see here are loads of files. You can sort, you can filter, you can show and hide properties just like in the normal bases view, but this new button, because we're in the bases view, the Obsidian core bases view, is different from the tasks plugin new button. So if I come over here, this is the tasks plugin, and I push new, now it's going to add a task. And if I say new test task and save it, this is a file which has been created inside of a tasks folder. So you can see we've got the TaskNotes main folder, an archive folder, and a task folder. And inside the task folder is where the new task was created. So this is actually a TaskNote task, whereas inside the views, inside of this project view, these are just normal Obsidian files that I haven't done anything to, but the TaskNotes plugin is finding them because it's in Obsidian Bases, and I can turn them into a task note. If I left click, you can see I can create it and save it as a note that will work with TaskNotes. What's the difference? If I come into this new task note and open it as a note, we've got loads of properties in here which I don't normally have. So status, priority, due date, scheduled. I don't normally have these properties. If I come into the view and let's just open up this file, you can see these properties, if I drag that other one across, are very different from the ones from the task note. So the task note properties are different from the file properties, but inside the view, you can still see them and you can still add that information in, which to me is really nice because the notes plugin works with the bases plugin. So now let's have a quick look at the file. We've got a status, which is a text property, not Boolean. So it's not done or not done. There are options in here. Priority, same. You've got normal, but it's a text property, so there's options. Due date, which is a date. Scheduled, a date. Duration, number, which is done in minutes. I'll go through that later. Date created, date modified, and tags. But if we go to settings, then go to the task properties, there is a lot of customization here. If we have a look, we've got statuses. That's that first property. To do, in progress, done. But I can add more. So I've just added a property, and let's say it's archived. We want to call it archived, and I can change the color to black. I'm going to auto archive and say that this is completed. And it's going to delay for 5 minutes because when it's archived, it's going to move to that archive folder. So the file will move to the archive folder. And so when I come back to the done property, I can turn these ones off, which gives me full flexibility of the status of the task. You can see it's currently at to do and it's showing red. If I tick it, it's now orange because it's in progress. If I tick it again, it's now green because it's done. I tick it again, it's now black and it's been archived. If I then check it from archived, it goes back to do. You can see there it is, it's a to-do status. If we hover all the way through to archive, you'll notice there is a completed date added to the file, 15th of the 9th, which is obviously today, so it stores that completion history. Let's come back so it to do and scroll down to task priorities. Similar thing, we've got high, normal, low, none, but we can add a priority. So let's say ASAP, color we want red, weight I want 4, but I know ASAP is going to clash with high, so let's change high color to a yellow. And so now I can see we've got the second dot, which is the priority. If I click on that one, we've got ASAP, so it's red. If I click on there, we've got high. click it again, we can go down to low, etc. If I left click on the task, it brings up this edit window, which when I click on the star gives me those options. You can see there's the priority options, and the dot next to it is those status options. It's to do, we can go in progress, or we can go normal. So the edit window gives you all the options as well, alongside due date, schedule date, the recurrence, and reminders. And so scrolling down from task priorities, we have all of the other fields. We've got title, status, priority, etc. And we can change the name of these fields to map. So schedule date is scheduled, due date, due date. I think I've changed this because I want it to work with Morgen. I'll get to that towards the end of the video because I use Morgen for managing tasks and stuff. But I've changed this field to say due date. And you see we've got loads of other stuff. And then of course, because it's customizable, you can add a custom field. I've added a Morgen custom field, which is a Boolean. So if I click on it, display name Morgen, property key is completed, and then type Boolean. And so when I click on this task, you can see Morgen is there. It's currently doesn't exist. I can turn it on, turn it off. Let's just save it. So now completed, the field is there. But when I add these properties in, I could use a quick add to bring this in. I could use a different template to add this in. So when I come up to the properties, go to defaults and templates, I can change the default file template. So it adds that Morgen property in by default. So change the default status, default priority, default context, which is essentially a tag, default tags for added information, default project, which I'll get to later, use parent as a note, and then we can add a body template, maybe use a template from a file. So I can add that in, select a file, and there you go, automatically add that stuff in. At the moment, I have the due date and the schedule date both set to today. So that is why the due date and schedule date was automatically added as today. But let's say none and none. Now we add a new one. So we can add a second task, control enter to create the task. Now we've got a second task and it doesn't have date information, but it does have this hashtag task. And that's because if we go back to the general settings, you can default task folder. So at the moment I've got it in a separate task folder so I don't get mixed up. It moves archive tasks to an archive folder, which I have set up, and there it is. But the task identification is done via a tag and the task tag. So that's what the tag's been created. However, I could say a property. And now it's going to look for the name of a property and the value of a property to say, hey, yes, this is actually a task I want you to show. I'm going to keep it as a tag because it's simpler. And then you can also exclude folders. So say I don't want any files from the other or projects folders I have inside of my Obsidian that have a task tag in it. You'll have also just seen that when I single click, it goes to edit task, but I could have it to open note and then double click is open note. So when I single click, it edits. If I double click, it opens the note. So I can click back, double click, opens the note, or I single click to edit the information. Now moving over to the appearance and UI settings, we've got the properties. So these are the core properties inside of this plugin, which we've just gone through. You've got the status, priority, etc. And these ones are ticked for showing. So you can see here, we've got the due date, the schedule date, the task, tag, and then the Morgen property. The Morgen property here is being shown and the organization also is showing there. So if we add time estimate, create modified, date modified, and now come back, you can see, and if we add a time estimate, let's say 30 and save, you can see we've now got 1 hour estimated, we've got the created time and all that information being shown. But what else is really interesting, so you can see we've got new test task. That is a file, and I'm currently in the second task file. If I link the new test task just as a normal Obsidian link, you can see now it's showing more information. It's showing this information inside of a normal view. So you look, I'm in the live preview. If I go to source mode, it's just a normal view. Go to live preview, you can see down the bottom the setting. I'm in live preview, not source mode or reading, I'm in live preview. And now I can still interact with these properties that I'm showing. So the card settings inside of here show inside of the tasks view, but not inside of the inline viewing options. But the inline viewing options still give me edit options. So if I click on here, I can add one day to the due date. So now it's due tomorrow, but it's scheduled for today. If I add, so let's minus that one. Now it's scheduled for yesterday and it's due for tomorrow. If I click on the green dot, we can say, actually, this is as ASAP priority. Let's just tick this as well. And you can see, even though it's inline and it's just the link to the task, I'm still editing the property information of this file. So you can see if I open up the note, it's changing the file property from here. So let's just do that again. If I check this done, now it's been done. And this is a really nice way to be able to edit and see the tasks or projects that's going on. So I'm actually going to turn off all of those because I don't want those. And you can see there's the custom property that I'm showing. If I go into the board view inside of the Obsidian Bases, let's just close that down so you can see everything we've got to do, in progress, done. If I drag this over, it changes the status. You see it's orange, now it's red, and it's orange, and we can still see that information. So we've got the tag, we've got the created, we've got the time estimate because it's showing that information. We've got everything else in this one as well. If I move this new test task into archived, you'll notice it's now moved to the black archive status. We've got the status that's changed. We've got a tag that says archived, and it's been moved to the archived folder. If I right click on this card, it's the same as the other view as well. If I right click on this card, I have the option to change the status, to change the priority, to change the due date in various ways, schedule date various ways, change the reminders, which I'll go through later, start time tracking, or unarchive the file. So I can unarchive it. Now it's come out of that archive folder, and then I can drag it back to done or to do. The rest of the options in the right click menu are very similar to the default file option. So you open the note, you can copy the task title, note actions. There is your sort of like normal options. Add to calendar, which I haven't tried doing because my Google Calendar is a bit large and it uses iCount, which I'll go through in a second, recurrence, which I'll go through later, and then subtasks. So if I quickly go through the integrations, I am integrating with Obsidian Bases because I've turned this on and that's why it works, but you don't have to do that. And then there are other options where you can add calendar subscriptions to this. You can use default note templates, default note files, ICS formats, but unfortunately because my calendars are a bit large, I keep getting loads of errors, which is why one of the reasons why I'm still using Morgen, because I have lots of calendars, 29 calendars with lots of information in, and none of them seem to be working. But once I've tested out some smaller calendars and maybe some specifically subscription calendars, I might be able to get something working and going inside of Obsidian. And then when we hover over to features, there are lots of other smaller features that I'll let you explore because there's tons of them. But enable natural language task input is really nice. I'm using English for that. The Pomodoro timer I will never use, but there are some settings there. Notifications are here. Performance and behavior is related there. Recurring tasks down the bottom. So what this was, what the natural language processing is, if I, oh, nope, that's the basis. There we go. I've just made that mistake. Go to tasks. Then push the plus, there we go. Publish this video due today, 1 hour. For editing, let's say it's high priority. And you can see we've got an explanation down the bottom of what's going on. I can add set a due date, so it's today, but it already was today. It's scheduled for, let's say, tomorrow. It's still setting. I'm not going to add a recurrence. Let's add a reminder. Remind me before the due date. I'm not sure why it's up there, but it seems to appear up there. Might be because I've got 4 screens. Don't know. But now I've added that in. If I don't want NLP to work, then I click the button and then I get all the boxes to add context. So let's add some context. Say home and tags for research. Now I save. Now we've added that task in, and you can see the context is home, so it's different from the tags. If I go into the file, you can see home is actually in a list property rather than the tags property, so they are different. But I did skip something in the appearance tab, which if we scroll down, you can see there is calendar settings because there is a calendar view. So there's a calendar view inside of Obsidian that works with these tasks, both recurring and normal tasks. I have a 12-hour format. You can change it to 24. Week timeline is my default. You could have a month, day, year, or custom multi-day. Monday is the first day of the week. I'm going to show weekends, show week numbers, show today's, etc., etc. I'm just going to quickly scroll through these because I figure you can read settings. The ones that I'm going to focus on, though, time slot duration, 15 minutes, because I do tend to do things in 15-minute spots, so shorter tasks are 15 minutes, and then 30 minutes or an hour. I want to start my grid at 8 o'clock, the same as what I do in Morgen, and finish it at midnight. And the initial time scroll also at 8 o'clock. I'm going to leave all of these UI elements as they are. And so when I go Control P, let's just open the calendar view. So you can see advanced calendar view because the mini calendar view is that. That's it. I mean, it works. It's just not particularly useful for me. So I'm going to go for the advanced calendar view. And now I'm in the week view. It's showing the due date. So this is the due date of the task. And then I probably should have had the scheduled days something where it was in the view. So now it's at the all day section. So this new test task is due tomorrow, but it's scheduled for today in the all day section. I can drag it down and there we go. 8:45 or 9 o'clock, and then I can drag it backwards. So now it's 30 minutes. It is red because that is the priority. If I go to high and then save, now it's changed it changed the time. Not sure why it did that, but it's changed the priority. Maybe that's a bug that the developer can have a look at. Let's go to normal and save. That's a consistent bug. I assume it's because my default time estimate is being used. You can see we've got 30 minutes. Oh, no, it's not. Save. What if I go to low and then save? Gone to an hour. Don't know why, that's probably a bug. Hey, developer, if you're watching, found one for you. But if we go to the month view, it will then show that task scheduled and then the due date inside of the calendar as well. Now I've removed the search filter, you can see all of those other tasks. So what I had is I'd done task, so I'd searched for task, it added a filter that was just looking for the task, which is why it was just this one showing. So now when I get rid of it and go enter, it now shows all of the other tasks from this tasks view. So we have a list view, a board view, and a calendar view of those tasks. Let's jump into the week view. You can see I can now schedule that for the day or scroll down to the time, which is just gone 5 o'clock. There is a 3-day view, a day view, a list view, which acts like an agenda view, and a year view. I like the idea of a year view. The application I'm a little bit skeptical of. This view looks a little bit odd, but I really like the year view and how this works. The main limitation at the moment that I have seen is that if I go to the week view, let's just drag this to the all day section for the moment, I can't drag it along multiple days. The due date doesn't give you a pop-up notification say, hey, maybe you want to update the due date. So I would drag the due date across, but you can't edit the due date inside of the calendar view. You have to come in, go to the due date, and then say pick date, click on, and let's go to the 21st and save. So now the due date will be saved. Ooh, but it's moved. Let's just drag that back out again. And it's gone back. This is something that I have experienced with this, which I'm not sure if it's a feature, a limitation, a bug, but the tasks don't seem to stay in the all day section if I drag them across sometimes. So if I drag this over to Thursday, you can see it's staying there. I go to the month and it's staying there. But then if I update something in the task, so let's change the due date to Friday, select and save. Now the task goes back to just the one all day. So even though the plugin is really well developed, really good, and is great for visualization, works with Bases plugin, etc., there are some buggy experiences that I'm still seeing, and I've only been exploring this for a few hours, so maybe there's a couple more. But moving on to another feature which I really enjoy is the projects. So at the moment, this video isn't attached to anything. It is a file, and it's a main task file. So if I was to say, hey, this second task, this is actually a subtask of publish the video, so maybe I need to edit the video before I publish the video. I can add project and say publish this video. So now the edit video file is a subtask of the project publish this video task. Now when I save, you can see now I've got a link to that project. And if I go to the publish video file, it's going to show me down the bottom, hey, you've got a subtask here. And this works for all files. So if I was to come into publish the video and then say, add this to a project, traditional assumptions of perception, because I know that's a project I'm working on at the moment. It's a research project, and save. Now I've got this task is linked to this project. So I've got a subtask of a subtask for this research project, which is actually a task inside of Morgen. But if I scroll all the way down, you'll notice at the bottom of the original file, I have the subtask, which is publish this video, which you can see is linked to this file. When I click into the task, I can open that note. It then shows me the subtasks of this task. So you have subtasks inside of subtasks inside of tasks. Another couple of things I should probably mention, if I go to a file and I create a task, so this is a new task, you can see there's an icon next to it. So if I come out, there's nothing there, but if I click on the icon, it now creates this task block as a new file. And then when I left click, you can see it's taken the file itself, the lectures on perception, as the project file. And then if I save And then if I open Note, you can see it's taken me to the task, but it's inside of the projects folder. So it's taken the same file path as the original task. But all of the information is still the same. So again, if I create a new task, so new subtask, and then I click on this button, it's going to create a subtask, which is a task, and the task has been converted into a subtask when I click on it and then open the note. Still inside the projects folder, and it's linked to the task. You can see there it is in the backlink because it's inside the page. If I go back, still got the backlink option. So the task has been changed into a bullet pointed backlink essentially, and then you've still got the subtask options there. If we come into the tasks view, both of those appear. I can right click and then note actions, go down to delete, yes, delete, and then right click. I can then add the recurrence, so let's say daily. Now I've added a task recurrence, or I could go plus and then, I don't know, drink water every day, then save. Now I have drink water every day and new subtask for every day. And then if I go to the calendar view, what we will see is that the calendar is currently empty, even though we've got two tasks that are due every day. If I left click to edit the task, go to the schedule date and let's say today, and then due is tomorrow, and then save. Now when I head back to the calendar, I've got the new subtask is actually showing on the calendar. So if I move this to 9, that occurrence, you can see rescheduled next occurrence, is going all the way across. So now I have lots of instances on the calendar of the recurring task. If I go to the month view, you can see it's 9 till 10 on every single day because that's the occurrence. And again, if I change the drink water schedule date to today, save it. Now I'm going to go to the calendar, drink water is on every single day. If we come in, go to the recurrence settings and then add a custom recurrence. So we have a start date, I'm just going to say today, frequency weekly on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Let's say it never ends, and then go save, save. Now when I go back to the calendar view, you see we've got drink water on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and then it will just keep going forwards. Where this is slightly different is that you may have seen it. If we come into the edit window, we have completions. So you can complete each instance. So I can complete the 15th, the 17th and the 19th of drink water. So now this week's drink water is completed, but next week isn't. If we go to the subtask, I could complete all the ones in the future, save. So I've actually done these ones, but I haven't done this one. And when I come into this task to open note, they are saved in this property here that says complete instances, and it gives all of those dates as completed. Which brings me to Morgen. You can see I use Obsidian inside of Morgen. I use the AI planner to schedule time. I can see my calendar, where I need to be, what I need to do, all of the other things that I would use a calendar app for. But the main reasons I'm still using Morgen is I can see my events. I can turn on and off calendar sets, so other people's calendars to see when I'm available, when I'm not available. I can use the AI planner to suggest time for when it's scheduled, not manually doing it each time. And I can schedule a task multiple times. So you see this new test task, that is actually this task right here. I can schedule it in at one time in the morning, that time, then I can schedule it in again. And so now I have two different schedule times for this task, and for someone that when they do something, they then maybe need to keep it in the sidebar. So let's just delete that one and show you as an example. If I complete this task, I might actually still need to do some work on it, so it's not completely completed. And so Morgen will give me a pop-up in the bottom right, and it says the task will be closed in Obsidian. I actually want to keep it in the sidebar, and so it's going to complete the session, but it's still in the sidebar for me to do more tasks on. However, the only reason this task appears and the other ones don't is because I've added that Morgen property. You can see here the custom Morgen property, it doesn't exist on this file yet. So if I go into the file, you can see there's no completed status. So to publish this video, when I add properties, say completed, let's say actually it's not done, then go back to Morgen, that was using the Alt-C hotkey, you can see publish this video is now appearing. If I complete it inside of Morgen, the completed property inside of Obsidian will be updated, but the status won't. That is a little quirk that I'm going to have to work out a workflow for. And I'm sure there's lots of other nuances and ways that I can work out properties and different apps, etc., etc. But I wanted to do this video because I've been getting questions about, does the TaskNotes plugin work with Morgen? Yes, if you have the completed property. And for those of you that don't use Morgen, this is really, really good. It covers most of the basic use cases that I have for Morgen, but Morgen is still better for me because I use the AA planner, I schedule multiple times, I use lots of calendars and calendar sets, and I use it for project planning as well, which is far easier inside of Morgen than inside of TaskNotes at the moment, but we shall see.